Welcome back to Let's Talk Homeschooling, where we explore the beauty and practicality of homeschooling. I'm Sarah, and I'm so glad that you're here. Today, we're going to be answering a question regarding the Charlotte Mason method. I know so many parents have this question when they first discover Charlotte's philosophy. How do you begin implementing her ideas with a preschooler, especially before formal lessons start? If you're wondering how to lay a rich and meaningful foundation for your child's education without following a specific curriculum, this episode is for you. The preschool years are such a special time of discovery and wonder and formation for children. Charlotte Mason reminds us that education is an atmosphere, a discipline, and a life, which means learning isn't confined to textbooks or structured lessons. It's happening every day in the home, in nature, and in the habits that we cultivate. So today, we're going to talk about simple, natural, and joyful ways to begin this journey through time outside, rich literature, habit formation, and a home filled with beauty and truth. Whether you're brand new to Charlotte Mason or you're just looking for encouragement in these early years, I hope this episode gives you peace and inspiration as you nurture your little one. So, grab your cup of tea or your coffee and let's get started. So, before we get into the practical ways to implement Charlotte Mason's ideas with your preschooler, I think it's important to step back and understand her philosophy on early childhood education. Charlotte Mason believed that formal lessons shouldn't begin until around the age of 6, and that can feel countercultural for today when there's so much pressure to start academics super early with our kids. And she also reassured parents that education is happening all the time. It's not just in structured lessons. So it's happening through the atmosphere of your home, the habits that we cultivate, and the experiences that we provide our children. She had this beautiful perspective that young children are naturally curious and they're eager to observe their world, and they are so full of wonder for everything around them. Our job as parents isn't to rush them into formal schooling or fill their days to the brim with educational programs, but our role is to nurture that natural curiosity that they have and provide a rich environment where learning happens organically. Instead of focusing on worksheets or structured lessons, we can embrace what she called the science of relations, helping children form meaningful connections with the world around them. So Charlotte said, quoting, "In this time of extraordinary pressure, educational and social, perhaps a mother's first duty to her children is to secure for them a quiet growing time, a full 6 years of passive, receptive life, the waking part of it spent, for the most part, out in the fresh air." End quote. A quiet growing time. That sounds so inviting, right? This means allowing plenty of time outside, filling their days with rich stories and encouraging conversations, and guiding them in forming good habits that are going to help them in the long run. So if you're feeling the pressure to start formal academics too soon, just take a breath. I've been there. I'm with you. You are already providing your child with a beautiful education just by the way that you live your everyday life. And in the next few sections, we're going to talk about simple and natural ways to nurture this early learning in a Charlotte Mason way, starting with time outdoors. So, one of the most important things you can do for your preschooler, and this is something that Charlotte encouraged for all of her children, is to spend as much time outside as possible. She believed that children should have hours of outside play every single day, exploring and observing and developing a sense of wonder for their natural world. So, why is this so important? Because most of today's children spend most of their time inside, right? Well, nature is the first classroom. It's where children learn to observe closely, to notice details, to ask questions. When your child watches an ant carry some food on its back to its nest, or listens to the different sounds that birds make, they're naturally building their attention, their patience, and their curiosity. These are skills that will serve them well when formal lessons begin later on. And the beauty of this part is that you don't have to plan elaborate nature studies. Simply going outside regularly, whether it's in your backyard or a park or a nearby walking trail, it gives your children the opportunity to explore. Let them climb, run and dig in the dirt and collect leaves or rocks. You can gently guide their observations by saying things like, "Well, what do you see?" Or "Listen, do you hear the wind in those trees?" But the key is to let their curiosity lead the way. And remember, they're naturally curious. If you want to take a step further, you can introduce a simple nature journal. So for preschoolers, this might just mean drawing something that they saw outside, a leaf, a flower, or a bird, without any pressure to label or write anything down. And a really fun one is to actually do the leaf rubbing on a piece of paper with a crayon. My kids really like that one. If they like, they can tell you about their drawing, and you can jot down some of their words as a keepsake for your observations and for their future observations as well. The goal isn't to make nature study feel like a lesson, but to make it a habit, an expected and enjoyable part of their everyday life. And when children form this deep connection with the natural world, they naturally develop a sense of wonder and appreciation for beauty, and it's a foundation for lifelong learning. Let nature be your co-teacher, especially in the preschool years. So head outside, slow down, and enjoy the gift of the world around you with your child. Another key element of the CM philosophy, especially in the early years, is habit training. Charlotte Mason said, quote, "The mother who takes pains to endow her children with good habits secures for herself smooth and easy days," end quote. And I think every parent can agree, when our children have good habits, life just seems to run more smoothly, right? But habit training isn't about structure, structured discipline or perfection. Absolutely not. It's about gently and consistently guiding our children toward good habits that will serve them well for a lifetime. And the preschool years are the perfect time to begin, because children at this age are incredibly receptive to routines and patterns. And that comes up with another question then. So what kind of habits should we focus on? Well, Charlotte emphasized things such as attention, helping children to learn to focus solely on what they're doing. Obedience, so teaching them to listen and to respond with a willing heart. And kindness, so cultivating a habit of considering others as well as themselves. Of course, every family is different, so take a moment to think about what habits would bless your home the most. Maybe it's helping your child learn to put their toys away before moving on to another plaything. Maybe it's teaching them to respond when you call their name, or forming the habit of saying please and thank you. These may seem like small things, but they add up over time and they shape the atmosphere of your home. One of the best ways to teach habits is by modeling them. And I know every parent is sighing right now. But if we want our children to speak kindly, we need to use kind words ourselves. If we want them to be attentive when we talk, then we need to be attentive when they talk. And of course, consistency is key. So if we allow a habit to slide half the time, it becomes confusing for the child in those moments when we expect their compliance. And when we gently and consistently reinforce the habits we want to see, they eventually become second nature for the child. And here's something encouraging. habit training isn't about correcting bad habits all the time. It's about replacing them with good ones. So rather than saying, stop leaving your shoes in the hallway, we can say, let's make a habit of putting our shoes by the door when we come inside. It's a small shift, right? But it makes a big difference. Habit training takes practice. But the time you put in now will make things so much easier in the future. And the best part, you don't need a curriculum for this. It happens naturally in your everyday life as you gently guide your child. If there's one thing that can make a huge impact in your child's early years, that's reading aloud. Charlotte Mason placed a high value on books, specifically living books, because they inspire our imagination, they build language skills, and they feed the mind with rich ideas. So, what exactly is a living book? Well, she described them as books well written by authors who are passionate about their subjects, books that are beautifully written, engaging, full of worthy ideas. So, they're very different from the dry textbook style writing that most of us are used to, or what Charlotte Mason would call twaddle. So twaddle are books that are oversimplified, shallow, short, choppy sentences, and lacking in any real depth. In the preschool years, reading living books is one of the best ways to lay a foundation for learning. So it exposes children to rich vocabulary, beautiful language, and big ideas, even if they don't fully understand every word you use. When you read books with lyrical prose, captivating stories, and deep themes, feeding your child's mind with quality material that will shape their thinking and imagination. And the best part? You don't need a formal reading plan. Just choose wonderful books and read them aloud daily, before bed even. Some classical picture books with rich language include, say, Blueberries for Sal, Make Way for Ducklings, The Little House by Virginia Lee Burton, and Ox Cart Man. I always get that backwards. Fairy tales, fables, and poetry are also great additions to read aloud time. As you read, keep things simple. You don't need to quiz your child and turn it into a lesson. Just enjoy the story together. If they want to talk about it afterwards, then wonderful. But if not, that's okay too. Their minds are absorbing more than we realize they are. And a little tip, repetition is actually a great thing at this stage. So if your preschooler asks you to read the story of Ferdinand for the 100,000th time, go for it. Children build familiarity with language patterns, deepening their understanding and developing a love for books through repeated readings. And the wonderful thing about living books is that if it's a very good living book, it doesn't matter how many times you read it, you get love and enjoyment out of it every time. So if you want to start implementing Charlotte's philosophy with your preschooler, this is a great way to start filling their days with beautiful books. It's a simple habit, but it has a lasting impact. Another way to educate your preschooler without a curriculum or formal lessons is simply through conversation. So Charlotte emphasized the importance of a child's early years being filled with meaningful, rich language, and one of the best ways to do this is by engaging in thoughtful discussions throughout your day. And children, again, are naturally curious. They love asking questions. So many questions. Right? Instead of brushing them off or giving quick and simple answers, how about we take the time to engage with them? If your child asks, why is the sky blue? Well, instead of saying, that's the way it is, or I don't know, you could respond, well, that's a great question. What do you think? And explore the idea together. Even if you don't know the answer, looking it up together models a love for learning and to seek out answers. Narration is a key element of Charlotte Mason's method, And it also seems to begin in a very natural way during these years. Narration is simply the habit of retelling something in your own words. With preschoolers, this doesn't have to be formal at all, and it shouldn't be at this age. Formal narration should begin with formal lessons. During the preschool years, it could be as simple as asking about everyone's day during dinner, and simply asking your child if they had a favorite part of the day, or did they really enjoy something that they did. These little moments help develop attention, comprehension, and verbal skills without any pressure. Another great way to enrich conversation is by naming things properly. Instead of saying, "Look at that bird," you might say, "Oh, I think that's a cockatoo. Look at its bright yellow crest of feathers." Or, "That's a gum tree. Do you see any gum nuts?" Giving children specific, rich language from an early age builds their vocabulary, and it sharpens their conversation skills. And don't forget the value of storytelling. Sharing family stories, your childhood memories, or even making up silly tales together fosters imagination and connection. When children hear expressive, engaging language, they absorb the rhythms of storytelling and they gain a deeper appreciation for words and ideas. So whether you're reading a book, taking a walk, or sitting around the dinner table, know that every conversation is an opportunity for learning. Your words shape your child's understanding of the world, and the more meaningful, thoughtful, and engaging they are, the richer their education will be, even before formal lessons begin. Another beautiful way to begin implementing Charlotte's philosophy in the preschool years is by filling your home with music and art and beauty. Now, this doesn't need to be complicated or require special curriculum. Just small, intentional choices that help shape your child's sense of wonder and appreciation for good, true, and beautiful. So let's start with music. Charlotte Mason encouraged exposure to great music from a very early age, not as formal lessons, but as something that becomes a natural part of life. You can simply play classical music, folk songs, or hymns in the background while your child plays, or during meals. Over time, they'll begin to recognize the different melodies and composures, and their ears will be tuned to beautiful sounds. And don't be afraid to sing together. Nursery rhymes, folk songs, or even silly made-up songs all help develop language, rhythm, and joy. Now, let's talk about art. You don't need an art curriculum for a preschooler to begin appreciating great arts of work. Just print out a painting from a great artist, maybe something by Monet, Van Gogh, or Vermeer, and place it where your child can see it. You might say, "What do you notice about the painting?" Or, "What colours do you see?" The goal isn't to lecture or dictate your child's response, but to simply let them enjoy and observe what's in front of them. Over time, they will develop an appreciation for beauty without even realizing it. And of course, there's their hands-on activities. Yes! Let your child engage in simple, open-minded art activities. So drawing with crayons, painting with watercolors, or playing with clay. The goal isn't to create perfect artwork, but it's to enjoy the process of making and exploring. Lastly, beauty in everyday life isn't just about art and music. It's about the atmosphere that we create in our homes. So this could mean lighting a candle at dinner, placing fresh flowers on the table, or reading poetry together. It's in the small intentional moments that we cultivate a love for beauty. Charlotte reminded us that children's minds feed on the good and the beautiful, and when we surround them with these things in simple, natural ways, we're shaping their affections and their understanding of their world. If there's one thing preschoolers do best, it's play. And that's a wonderful thing, because play is not simply a way of passing the time, it's a vital part of early childhood development. Charlotte Mason recognized that children learn best when they are engaged in meaningful, hands-on experiences, and play is one of the most natural ways to explore and make sense of the world. In today's culture, there's often pressure to introduce structured academics way too soon. But we need to remember that play is real learning. When a child builds with blocks, they're developing spatial awareness, problem-solving skills, and creativity. When they engage in imaginative play, pretending to cook or care for a baby doll or build a fort, they're practicing social skills and storytelling and independent thinking. The best kind of play is open-ended and child-led. Simple toys that allow for creativity, so wooden blocks, dolls, play silks, animal figurines. They encourage imagination far more than flashing lights and screens ever will. In fact, Charlotte warned against overstimulating young minds. Instead, she encouraged giving children real experiences, letting them dig in the dirt and climb trees and create their own adventures. And while independent play is important, there's also something special about playing with your child when invited. Whether it's stacking blocks, pretending to go on a bear hunt, or having a tea party, these moments of connection are precious and they lay the foundation for a strong parent-child relationship. One of the best things we can do as parents is create an environment where free, unstructured play is a natural part of our child's day. So this means protecting time for play, resisting the urge to overschedule, and allowing the children the freedom to explore without constant adult direction. So know that giving your children the gift of play is one of the most valuable things you can do. It's not wasted time. It's actually childhood at its best. In a world that often pushes more activities, more academics, more achievements, it can be countercultural to slow down and let children have their childhood unfold naturally. But one of the best things in life is an unhurried childhood. Charlotte Mason believed that young children should not be rushed into structured academics. Instead, these early years should be filled with rich experiences, time outdoors, good books, meaningful conversations, plenty of free play. And the beautiful thing is that this kind of education, it doesn't require a detailed schedule or a long list of activities on your to-do list. It simply requires you to be present and intentional with the time that you do have. If you ever feel the pressure to do more or worry that you're not doing enough, take a step back and ask, is my child growing in curiosity? Are they developing a love for learning? Are they being nurtured in a home filled with beauty, truth, and goodness? And if the answer is yes, then you're on the right path. Simplicity also means resisting the urge to overfill your days. It's okay to say no to too many structured activities, to keep a gentle daily rhythm and let your child have quiet moments of wonder and exploration. Boredom isn't a bad thing. It's often the spark for creativity and deeper thinking. So remember, you don't need a rigid plan or an overflowing schedule. What your child needs most is time. Time to explore, to grow, and to form connections with the world around them. As we wrap up this conversation about implementing Charlotte Mason's philosophy in the preschool years, I want to leave you with this encouragement. Trust the process and enjoy these precious years. I've had 2 preschoolers come through my home, and if there is something I look back on and wish that we had done differently, it would be to slow down and really enjoy the time that we had spent together in that quiet growing time. It's so easy to second guess ourselves, to wonder if we're doing enough, or to compare our child's learning journey to someone else's. Charlotte Mason reminds us that education is a lifelong process. These early years are not about checking off academic milestones, but it's about laying a foundation of wonder and curiosity and to develop a love for learning. Your preschooler doesn't need flashcards or worksheets or structured lessons. What they need is you, your presence, your patience, and your willingness to slow down and delight in these small, everyday moments. They need the joy of splashing in puddles and the comfort of a well-loved book, the warmth of your voice as you sing them a lullaby. And when you create an atmosphere of peace and beauty and gentle learning, not only are you preparing your child for a formal education, but you're also strengthening your relationship with them. These early years set the tone for lifelong love of learning, and they should be filled with joy and not stress. So take a deep breath and let go of any of the pressure that you feel to rush ahead. Trust that these simple, meaningful practices, spending time outdoors, reading living books, fostering good habits, engaging in conversation, filling your home with beauty, and protecting the time that you have for play are more than enough. Your child is already learning and you're already doing an amazing job. Thank you for joining me today. I hope this episode has given you confidence and encouragement as you walk through your Charlotte Mason journey with your little one. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd love for you to share it with a friend who might need some reassurance. And if you have any questions or thoughts, I'd love to hear from you. Please send me a message or a comment and connect with me through our Facebook or Instagram pages. Until next time, take joy in the journey, and remember, education is an atmosphere, a discipline, and a life.